Hi, this is Shelley Kraft. We're coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the Hard Assets Rare Earth Investment Summit #1. It's the first time they're having this, and we are here doing some interviews. This is Dr. Michael Berry, a speaker at this conference, and also known for his DiscoveryInvesting.com newsletter writer, raconteur. He's a guy that's been in the business a long time. He's a great guy to get on this show. Happy to have you. Welcome to SNN Live.
Great to be here, Shelley.
It's good to have you. I want to ask you, what's going on in your mind? That's all I want to know.
Right now, what's going on in my mind is that I think we've had enough of rare earths. Rare earths are sort of everywhere, and yet they're called rare earths. It's kind of a misnomer. And I'm interested that at this conference we're seeing a full room. And so there's still a lot of educating to do, lots going on in that world. So, I'm an old educator. I taught university for many years and then went to Wall Street. So I find the educational part of this very, very interesting.
I think you're right. But I sat in a couple of panels. And unless you have somewhat of an education to begin with, it's, that's not rare earth element 101 in there. It's a little bit higher, you got to kind of know something to get in there. This, you got to at least, hit the road. The rubber has to meet the road somewhere in your perspective.
Yes. Yeah. Well, my perspective, I'm on the East Coast, so I'm in Washington a great deal, and I'm talking to senators and congressmen and chiefs of staff and so on. And that's where, really, if I can say it without offending anyone, that's where the abysmal ignorance exists in our economy today. The legislators in Washington don't really understand this stuff, and they're the ones that are drafting the legislation. So they need to be educated first about critical metals and shortages, and today I'm going to talk about strategic issues because by the time I get up there, everybody will have gone through all the speeds and feeds and grams and all tonnage. So I'm going to talk about issues that I think are strategically important to the U.S. and I pick up a lot of those things in Washington.
You mean it's a little bit more than electric cars?
It's a lot more.
I meant that tongue-in-cheek, of course.
Yeah, sure. Get in line, everyone, because the Department of Defense will be first. The Defense Logistic Agency, I believe, will do a stockpile. That'll take supply off the market. Those things are going to happen. Of course, we've sold down our stockpile of critical metals over the last 3 decades, I suppose, but we're going to rebuild them. And so the consumer is going to sort of take a back seat. I think there's probably a lot more price appreciation potential here in rare earths simply because all of a sudden now everybody is going to start stockpiling these things. That's what I'm going to talk about today.
Well, that's a different take from what's been said earlier in the conference. I felt a sentiment of bearishness, but I think that was based on the economy and how those stocks fit into the trading patterns that both the professionals and the amateurs are dealing with in the market versus gold, silver, and other commodities.
Right.
Is that your take?
Yeah, I think the bearishness is a couple of factors. One is we have in this industry, this natural resource industry, what we call the mystery history curve. And so early in the rare earth cycle, you get tremendous price increases. And then people realize they bid the things up too much, and so you start to see it come down again. But if you look at the geopolitical issues around the world, for instance, very few people realize that there's an arms race underway in Asia. I mean, China increased its defense budget by 358% in 2009. I don't know what the 2010 numbers are. And they need these metals. So the giant sucking sound in the rare earth space and the critical metal space will be China bringing its export levels down and retaining this stuff in house. So we're going to see a strong market here. There's no doubt about that.
It's not every country in the world that has rare earth metals, rare earth elements of, import, right? So, you got China, North America, it's just like there are countries that don't have their own oil supply.
Correct.
So how does the international demand for that commodity also have an influence on both what's happening in North America and China, in particular when China closes its door?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One that's a little hard to answer, but rare earth elements are quite a bit different from other metals because they're hard to find in high grade combinations, and they're hard to separate. They're difficult to separate, and you get radioactivity with them a lot. So there are very few really good mines around that you're allowed to actually mine. But one of the biggest problem is that in the United States of America we do not have an extractive resource policy, and so you've got the environmentalists on one side and the unemployed on the other side, and we don't have any at present. We don't have any resources in the rare earth or critical metal space. That's a problem for us.
How would you attack that?
Well, we're trying to do it now. There are 7 bills in Congress. There are 2 Senate bills, and 4 or 5 now. I think 5 congressional bills that are aimed at rare earth elements specifically, but they're going to be broadened to a number of other elements, and I hope we'll have a national mining policy in this country that makes sense. Well,
maybe it's something that will be developed during this election period.
I don't think I'd like to agree. I'd like to think that's the case, but I'm not sure anything's going to get developed during this pre-election period. Maybe afterwards.
I know, and that's a topic we don't have time to touch on. But I want to tell you, I'm going to sit in on your speech. I really want to hear it, and I want to thank you. Your perspective is so fresh and needed, and I think it will fall on listening ears and not deaf ears.
I hope so.
And I know it's completely contrarian to some of the other things that have gone on, and you have to have that. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Berry, PhD. Which website do you want people to go to?
DiscoveryInvesting.com, and we write a newsletter that is complimentary, so you just have to sign up and you'll get it.
We're coming to get it. Ladies and gentlemen, the DiscoveryInvesting.com Speaker of the House. He's here. Thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure, Shelley. Good to meet you.